Good.
Interesting to see. Interesting to see. All right, so anywho, how are we all doing? Pretty good?
Yay.
Yay.
I'm excited.
If I was the guy going to the cabinet to get the checks, it would be much, much more.
Of course it will.
Are you?
No.
Well,
That's what
there you
The
go.
only thing I do with checks is bring them back to Jody so he can sign them. That's the only thing I
It's too bad.
Forge it.
It's a tricky.
Wait, so
it's a sneaky way to delay.
it works really
Checks
well.
in cash. You just don't Shazam them out and don't sign them.
Now, if you've seen his signature enough, you just forge it.
Most people look at the amount and go right to the bottom.
Or
of
know
the
the
check,
bank
right? They
people
go
enough,
scrolling
they don't.
signature, and then I go back,
Oh,
yeah. So, okay, so I'm going to talk today about something. I'm just about a perspective on something, and I'm going to start out by saying that it is perfectly okay to be selfish in some situations. And I'm going to kind of explain to you what I mean by that and why that is. And I want to talk to something about literally what we're doing right now. No, not eating salad. But the question is, and I can't imagine anyone would answer no to this question, but let's ask the question anyways. Is it important that we work on ourselves?
Yes.
Absolutely, yeah. No one's ever going to go, nope, it's not important. The question is, why? Why? Why is it important that we work on ourselves? Let me ask it another way. Who cares? What difference does it make? I think that if I had to describe myself as the type of material that I like to, or the conversations that I like to engage in, and the type of presenter that I am, you know, there's a guy out there that's very well known. He calls himself the why guy. There are other people that are like the how guy. Me, it's what I like to discuss is what difference does it really make? And so the question again is it important to work on yourself? And the answer is yes. The question is why? What difference does it make? In other words, let's define what work on ourselves means. It means to become stronger, smarter, healthier, more financially stable, etc., etc. Correct?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to work on our character, to work on our abilities, to conquer our fears, to do those type of things. But the question again is, what difference does it make?
All of the difference.
What is the difference? What difference does it make, or why is it important that we work on ourselves? In other words, how does me, becoming a better me, help me? And if you say that sentence a couple times over, it sounds silly because it answers the question, how does me, becoming a better me, help me? Well, it's all about you. I think most people would answer that question, they would say, it affords me the opportunity to take advantage of the things that come through life. Would that be agreeable?
Yes.
Okay. So I have another question for you then. If the working on yourself is important because it allows you to take advantage of things that come down the pipeline, to capture more opportunities, to do things of that nature. And obviously, those are things, if I go and become and learn a subject and become smart on some subject, I don't think people would argue with the fact that just because you learned a subject that you are not currently applying is a bad idea. Because if it did, I wasted 9 years of school. But there's a absolute fact that learning, regardless of what it is a good thing. Okay, but you could learn something that you might never ever apply, except for the time possibly that you're learning. So does that make that not important? Probably not, but it makes it's just as important. If you're going to advance knowledge in your mind, regardless of its knowledge, whether you plan or know that you're going to use in the immediate future, I don't think you could make the argument that that's a bad idea to put knowledge in your head or to learn something, right? So let me ask you this. If working on ourselves is important, if you lived on an island, would you work on yourself less or more than you do now? You were by yourself, alone, on an island. Would it be more important to work on yourself then, or is it more important to work on yourself in the good old world that we live in? It seems the immediate argument is that, well, you have to be self-sufficient on the island.
Right.
You've got to. But to what degree? So do you only do the things that you have to do to become self-sufficient, and that's it? Or are we worried about things like, character, you're all by yourself, honesty? I mean, that it's an interesting thing. In some degrees, in some instances, for some aspects, you would have to work in yourself more, probably to survive. In some instances, you wouldn't.
You're selfish by default because it's just you.
Right, and the thing is that no one really wants to live on an island, and why is that? Why is it that we as people collectively come together, we collaborate, we live in cities, we do the thing? No, it's very odd that somebody lives in the mountains and the woods by themselves. The reason is that life is just in general better by the things that the people around you bring to the table, by their talents, by their abilities, by their capabilities. Okay, it's easier for us to survive or to prosper as humans as a group. That's the whole reason. It's easier to defend ourselves. It's easier to farm with a family. It's easier to do those things collectively. So it's an interesting concept when you think about it. If I was like, I'm going to work on myself more, because a lot of times I think, and the whole purpose of this conversation isn't about whether it's important or not to work on ourselves, but how do we stay motivated to do that? I'm an A-type personality. I've been in sales my whole life, which means that I like to have things that give me immediate response or that I get immediate feedback on. Now, if you're my sister and she's very successful, her motivation is simply what she has predetermined the product of X amount of hours of work to be. She says that I'm gonna go to school for this, and then I'm gonna do this, and then I'm gonna do this. Now that plan varies a little bit, but for her whole motivation, she's already figured out what the end result is gonna be, and she works toward that. Okay, which is great. My sister can't sell anything. Okay, which is that's two different types of personality there. They're very calculated. They're very 1 foot forward, 1 step at a time. Know the next step. Very, very thought things through. Me, when I come to trying to decide whether I'm going to do A or B, and B is something that's working on myself, but I don't know that I'm going to see any immediate return on it. What I want to know is, or what I try to do, or what I'm trying to do, is to say, how do I stay motivated to keep working on myself when whatever I do, the book that I read, the volunteering that I do, whatever the case may be, may not manifest itself, the value or the return on that investment, if you will, isn't going to show up tomorrow or the next day or the next day or the next day. Do you see what I'm saying? So, if helping me become a better me obviously helps myself, the problem is it's just me. And so when we're in a work environment and we do something in a work environment, we have a task at hand, we get paid for it every week, and that return is immediate. But when it's just you, and it's just you working on you, it can be very difficult to stay on that task because life boils down to a bunch of decisions. We have very small decisions that we make every single day, all day long. We have decisions that are forced on us. We don't have a choice. We got to make decisions. And then we have larger decisions. And typically what happens is the time or the things that we can do that are about us, that can help us become better people, fall in those very small decision moments. We can decide to what we do after work, what we do before work, what we do on our weekends, how we spend our time with our friends, what are the things, the activities that we involve ourselves in. Okay? So, I believe that the motivation to do anything in life becomes exponentially greater when that doing whatever that task is involves the failure or success of the people that you love. So in other words, you may be motivated to get a better job to make more money. But if you suddenly you were in a situation where you had to provide immediately for kids and families and you had loved ones that were in desperate need, your motivation there would be much, much higher because it involves not just you, but the people around you. Okay? Well, in life, we have basically 3 or 4 different circles of people or circles of influence. And there's a couple that are completely obvious. One is your household, which may be your family, and then your family plus a couple. Those are the people that you go home to every night that depend on you. In some degree or not, they depend on you. That's your household. Those are people that are living under the same roof as you. You either A, have to coexist with them, or B, you have responsibilities there. You're a mother, father, daughter, whatever that case may be. The other obvious circle is your work circle. These are people that you work with, that the job that you have, and the reason that someone pays you to do something. Those people, you move forward and backwards enough with them. The third circle is your immediate fellowship circle outside of work, which typically manifests itself in your tightest group of friends that you hang out with all the time that may not be in your household, that you may not work with, they may in your church, things like that. Then there's a little bit looser group of circles, a little group of circle that kind of crosses over, which would be someone that you work with that you may not have anything to do at work. You might be completely separated from at work, but they still work with you. But outside of work, there's a friendship there, the people you kind of hang out with. They're not somebody you're with all the time, but they're people that are your circle of influence. And for our discussion, that means, circle of influence means that they're people that you influence and that also influence you, okay? So the question is it important that we work on ourselves? We've agreed that's true. And the question is why? So here's what happened to me that brought this in perspective the other day. This is a little while back. A friend of mine who I have grown to become, that I care about, a guy that I love, called me on the phone and asked me a question, very, very simple question. He said, I need a friend right now, and I need some help. Now, the interesting thing about that is that the situation that person was in, it's not a situation I'm ever going to find myself in, because there's some parameters there that I don't have. So if someone were to call you up and say, hey, I'm trying to buy a house, I'm really having issues with it, could you help me out with it? But you've never bought a house in your life, you might not be the best person for that. But it's still, the point is that this guy called me up, he said, hey, I need a friend right now. I'm in a situation that I know you don't probably understand all the mechanics of it. You've never been in that situation yourself, but can you help me out with that? And my immediate knee-jerk response was, no. That's not what I said. What I said was, sure, what can I do? But I knew absolutely, in fact, without a doubt, that I could not help that person. My second knee-jerk response was, I should be able to. There's no reason that I shouldn't be able to help this person right now. Why can't I give the level of help that I should be able to give to this person right now? And I thought about it, and I thought about it, and I thought about it. And the reason is because I wasn't a good enough person, strong enough person myself to help that person. Then I started thinking about this. What difference does it make? What difference does it make whether or not, to me, again, I'm coming at this from a completely selfish angle, because that's what motivates me to move me forward. Unfortunately, that's probably a character flaw, a huge one. But I thought to myself later, what difference does it make to me if I can help that person, and why does that bother me so much? Now, the person who needs the help, if I can help that person, it's obvious. That's an obvious answer. But to me, what difference does it make to me? What I realized was this. Much like killer whales, if you will, I don't believe necessarily in the theory of you're only as strong as your weakest link. I believe entirely on the theory that you are going to be as strong, or you're probably limited in your strengths by the people around you. And you have some people around you by choice, some people around you not by choice. But inside of your circle of influence, the better that your pod of people, the stronger that your pod of people becomes, the stronger you become. The more opportunities you are afforded by the strength of the group that you hang with. You may not believe me, but let me ask you this. If one of us asked all the rest of us here to go to lunch tomorrow, and somebody else had an opportunity to go to lunch with the guy who owns the Mavericks, Mark Cuban. Right, thanks. I couldn't remember the guy's name. A couple of other famous people that you know, maybe one of your favorite quarterbacks. Who would you go to lunch with?
Cuban.
Right, you'd go to lunch with. Why?
It's a rare opportunity.
And it may not be an opportunity. It may only be lunch.
And he's probably going to pay too, so.
He's going to pay for lunch.
He's going to pay for lunch.
Probably be a nice
He's got
place.
expensive
Might get
taste.
some
Right.
Mavericks.
But when was the last time that we all went to lunch together as a group that either the company or somebody in the company didn't pick it up for us? And that's not really a relevant thing. The point of the matter is that you would want to be a part of that pod. You would want the opportunity to put your foot in the door and say, I get to be a part of this pod. Why is that? Because there's a lot of strength and power that comes from that group of people. Whether or not you're going to be accepted or not, you would want to do that. So, the answer to the question is, what difference does it make? Why is it important that we work on ourselves? It's important that we work on ourselves and we become as good a people as we can be, because at some point someone that you know that's not inside your immediate circles that needs you every single day is going to need something. And if you really want to, if you're as selfish as I am, and you need that motivation about, I have options this evening to spend my time. Should I at least spend some of my time working on being a better me? I can say, yeah, because there's going to be a point in time where somebody's going to come to me and they're going to want some help. And if I can give that person help, and I can strengthen my own pod, then I have the opportunity to move forward through life better. I have more opportunities. The stronger the people around you become, the stronger the opportunities and the greater the opportunities you will have. And the stronger the pod is, the better your pod, whatever pod it is, the stronger that pod is, the more opportunities you have. And the way that you strengthen that pod is by being as strong of a person as you can be, so that the people around you, when needed be, can rely on you. What difference does it make? Why does it make a better difference that we are more financially stable, that we have our priorities in line, that we have better character, that we have good work ethic, that we're somebody that can be relied on, that we're trustworthy, that we work hard, and that we're knowledgeable? All those things that, if you're alone on an island, don't make any difference at all. But in the setting of a group where you have the ability to move forward. So the whole purpose of this today was simply to maybe change our point of view on why it's important to work on ourselves, because we can make our pod of people that we hang out with strengthen, because you're moving forward with them, whether or not, sometimes whether you like it or not. But certainly we've made choices of the people that we work around. They're going to come to you someday for help. It's not just about helping that person. By helping that person and being able to help that person through your own strength, then you two become stronger and you can move forward together. Possibly to go get more shrimp. Because that's all I know about the shrimp business.
Creating tens.
There you go. Nice.
Good way to end
Oh,
it.
no.
Yes.
Thoughts? What do you think, Don?
I like it all. I agree. I mean, everybody has selfish motivations for one reason or another. Never thought about